ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्यार्जुनञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुमिलितां येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नाम श्रेष्ठं मनुमातु सत्यपुत्रं प्राप्तरूपं रूपं तस्याग्रजमरूपुरुमत्रिं राधा कुन्दं गिरिवरं महो राधिकमधावसम् प्राप्तो यस्या प्रतिकृपाय श्रीगुरुं तन्नतोऽस्मि वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनार्पितचरिं करुणयावतुर्णाकयः क्षमार्पयितुमन्यतस्फलराशिं स्वभक्तिश्रीं हरिपुरतसुन्दरभ्यूतिपदां वसुन्देतिकः सदा हृदये कुन्दरे स्फुरतो भासचिनन्दनः। यया सदा परिदाख्यान्निविश्वदोहं एकस्पदं शिवविरिञ्चिनुतं शरणं भृत्यार्तिहं प्रणतकालभवद्भूतं वन्दे महापुरुषते चरणारविन्दम्। यत्त्वासुदुस्त्यज सुरक्षितराजलक्ष्मी धर्मस्थार्यवचसा यदगत्तरम् मायं मृगं दयितैप्सुतां दधावत् वन्दे महापुरुषते चरणारविन्दं वन्दे महापुरुषते चरणारविन्दम् जानलम्बिताब्जो कनकावदातु सङ्कीर्तनायकवितरो कमलाय तक्षि विश्वाम्बरो धियावरो विदधार्मपाल वन्दे जगत्प्रियगुरो करुणावतारो भादिनी शक्तिस्वरूपाय गौरङ्गशूरिदाय च भक्तशक्तिप्रदानाय गदाधर नमस्तुते। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपीशा गोपीकांत राधा कांत नमस्ते। राधे वृंदावनाधीशे करुणामृतवाहिनी कृपया निजतावज्जातसन्निधं प्रदीयताम्। भक्त्यादिहीनाय अपराधलक्षाय चित्तश्चातमादितरङ्गिनाद्यै कृपमयितं शरणां कृपानं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। श्रील गुरुदेव की जय, श्रीमन महाप्रभु की जय, श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ जी की जय, श्री गौर पूर्णिम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंद। So, now welcome to all of you. Thanks so much for your presence, your invitation. So very glad to be able to share with all of you in this auspicious Gaur Purnima. So today we are celebrating one more time. I think it's 535 anniversary of Mahaprabhu's birth. So we are in that Gaur era. Era, you say in English? Era? Mm-hmm. So in the same way that Christians will count 2021, but we know that the world existed before that, but for them, the world began at that point. So in the same way, in Gaudias, we have this parallel notion of the Gaura era, implying there is something up before that, and after that. After that, something is not the same anymore. Especially the Gaura era in this particular era, if you will, in particular Yuga, this particular Kali Yuga, in this particular Kali Yuga specifically, when Mahaprabhu, as we know, descends in a special disposition, as we will see. So the celebration, of course, of the birth of Mahaprabhu, the Abirbhav, his descent on this plane, is, as our Guru Maharaj spoke today, has to do with, it has a lot of implications. It's not just a birthday, if you will, but it's the descent of whole personality with a whole range of personalities along with him. As we know, Krishna is never alone. Gaur Krishna is never alone. So he descends along with his parshads, with his lila. Lila means basically loving interaction between Bhagavan and his devotees. You cannot have lila without Bhagavan and his devotees. So when we speak about Gaur Lila, we speak about a particular type of interaction between Bhagavan, his devotees, in a particular type of course, mood that the lila is in. Every lila is in a particular, if you will, emotional framework, and we are to honor that appropriately. Srila Prabhupada will say, do not disturb the mood of Gaur, like implying, do not ever approach him just like, with as today we were speaking, with a particular mood that is not fitting for the Gaur Lila particularly. So that applies to every single Lila. But particulars we will see today, this applies very specifically regarding Gaur Lila, because Gaur Lila is, as my Guru Maharaj will say, is Krishna in his most introspective moments, Krishna doing self-psychoanalysis, however you may like to say it, but he's a full existential crisis in a very, very vulnerable moments, but at the same time, the most volcanic phase of the Absolute, as we always speak. From proper vulnerability will come some type of empowerment, some volcanic eruption. And today we are speaking about the very volcano-like avatar, which is Mahaprabhu, Avatari, the golden volcano of divine love, as Srila Siddhartha Maharaj had put it. So he comes on earth with his main, the Lila, again, earth is the stage, Nadi Adam, his main associates are the different characters of the drama, but again, Lila could be defined as a divine drama. And Nadi Adam, in this case, Sri Navadvip is the particular scenario in which the Lila will be performed. And it has to be a powerful one made of Suddha Sattva. It's not a stage made of wood or bricks, but it has to be established on the basis of intense serenagati and intense transcendence. Actually, as we know, Navadvip itself is described as 9 islands, and these 9 islands represent Navalakshan Bhakti, which have to do with the 9 main practices of Swarup Siddha Bhakti mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj, Shravan Kirtan, Vishwasmana, and so on. So the idea here is, if you want to reside in Nadia, means you want to reside in Swarup Siddha Bhakti, basically, because each island is speaking about, Godrum is speaking about Kirtan, this other island about Shravan and Shmaran. So to reside in Nadia, to be a member of that land, is to reside within the fold of Bhakti, of Gaur Bhakti specifically here. And as today was spoken in Guru Maharaj's morning class, I told to Pranada today, I was thinking about speaking about half of the topics that our Guru Maharaj selected for today's class. So no problem, we can always say something more, unending ocean. So this Gaur Lila, it's important to connect both sides of the Gaur Lila. And I like, maybe that was the favorite moment in today's lecture when our Guru Maharaj said, it may be relatively easy to understand Gaur and Krishna in one, but to really get that insight and to really understand from feeling Gaur is not different from Krishna. Of course, there is difference, but for difference to be an ornament and beautiful, you have to have some underlying unity. Our philosophy is Bhed Abhed, unity, diversity, achintya, simultaneously. At the same time, inconceivable, only conceived through Shastra. So if we only have unity, as we always say, that's boring. If everything is the same all the time, always. And if always we have difference, that will be like conflicting. We cannot find a common ground at any single moment. That's like, we know what's that about. But if you go to the other extreme and jump into Brahma Sayuja, when there are no conflicts, no diversity, but there's nobody there. I mean, everything was swallowed in that unity. So we try to find the middle point. And regarding Mahaprabhu and his Leela, that's important. He's Krishna, and I think it's important to understand how he is Krishna, in which way. And on the basis of that, we can go to the diversity side, to the particulars of his dispensation, basically. So Gaur Lila, of course, is an extension of Krishna Lila. It could be called like a chamber, you see, within Krishna Lila, like a lotus inside a lotus, so Guru Maharaj will put it poetically. And we are celebrating today, and hopefully not only today, the opportunity to be part of that, because Gaur Lila is an extension of Krishna Lila, and it's such an extension that is reaching us at this very moment, right now. So the main point that I want to share today that my Guru Maharaj spoke about, I will mention just briefly, but it's important just to hammer a little bit the post further, is that Gaur Lila is not a bridge, but it's a, how do you say, a landing place. It's not just, okay, it's a bridge, nice bridge, now I can burn the bridge, I went to the other side, so no necessity of coming back, I reach my destiny. No, it's a bridge, and it's the destiny at the same time. It's interesting because that's an extra feature. Krishna Lila may be generally conceived as the goal, and generally we think Gaur Lila is the way to the goal. But Gaur Lila is the way to the goal, but it's a goal in itself also. So it has some added feature, if you will. I don't want to enter into this idea, it's higher, lower. No, it's difficult not to enter into binary thinking and duality. This is best, this is worse, but it's important to appreciate how Gaur Lila is. It has a life of its own, if you will. It's not just something like with a shelf life. Okay, I reached Krishna Lila. Thanks so much, Mahaprabhu. See you, who know. I don't think I will see you again, so I will get merged. I mean, for the ones who like that, there's a chance, as we spoke, but for the ones who will like to keep embracing the mood of Gaur Lila, the window is there, open, remaining open. So it's the entrance gate to Krishna Lila, but it's a whole access in itself, into itself. There are many verses and many conceptions in scripture in this connection. Today I want to share some particular sections and verses which may not be that well known, that also interestingly speak about Gaur Lila and Krishna Lila and how the two of them connected with each other, and how, although some sections will speak about Gaur Lila taking to Krishna Lila, there are some other will say exactly the opposite. And of course, when I say exactly the opposite, basically we are saying the two are the same thing, and we make some time for full circle, hopefully. So first of all, we have a famous verse from Prabodhananda Saraswati from his Chaitanya Chandramrita, which is a very nice composition. I read it today so completely for as an offering to Mahaprabhu. It's not that long, so I had 1 hour finished. I was finished. And it's really ecstatic. Of course, he says, this is a famous book when, for example, Guru Maharaj will quote him saying, who cares what Varaha did? Who cares this avatar descended? It doesn't matter. It's not of no consequence because now Mahaprabhu came. That type of statement that you have to know how to deal with them and not repeat verbatim as if it were your own in class, because you may get burned yourself because you are not Prabhupada. He will say there, for example, also Kaivalyam Narakayati Tridasha Purakasha Pushpayati Durdantendriya Kala Satpapatale Pratkatadam Strayate Vishwa Purnam Sukayate Vidi Mahendra Dishka Hitayate Yat Karunya Kataksha Bhavavatam Tam Bhuramevashtuma. This is not the verse I was referring, but this is a trailer of that. He says, for that one who received just a mere silent glance of Sriman Mahaprabhu, for that person, and he starts to quote the list of consequences of that silent glance. So be careful with that. He says, first, Kaivalyam Narakayate, the idea of mukti becomes hell. Narakayate, Tridasha Purakasha Pushpayate, the attainment of heavenly delights and pleasures is like a flower in the sky, like a phantasmagoria, something that does not exist actually. Then he says, what he say? Durdandrendriya kala sarpapadale pratkata damstrayate. The senses that are so dangerous in this world because become like the fangs of the snake that has been broken. So now the senses are not danger anymore, but are facilitating something else. And Vishwa Purnam Sukayate, the opposite of what Krishna says in the Gita. Dukalama Sashvatam. Instead of being this world a place of misery, now, by the mercy of Gaur Krishna, Vishwapurnam Sukhayate. The whole galaxy is drenched into Ananda, something like this. Am Vidhi Mahendra Dishta Kitayate. And great personalities like Indra, Brahma, and so on become no better than insects. I mean, with all respect to the Devas, Prabhupada is speaking from his ecstatic heart. So that's the result of receiving the mere sidelong glance of Sriman Mahaprabhu, implying all the other so-called goals, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, become reduced to something laguta, moksha, laguta, krit, everything laguta, everything becomes insignificant. So in this work, Prabhupada says, Jatayata Gaura Padara Bindam Bindeta Bhaktim Krita Punya Rasi Tatatatar Saptati Krishna Hridya Kashmat Radha Padam Bhoja Sudambo Rasi. This is a famous statement where he says, the more you go immerse yourself into the service of Sriman Mahaprabhu, the more you emerge in the world of service to the lotus feet, the ocean of service to Sri Radha. No? The more you go deep into Gaur Lila, the more you emerge into Krishna. So this verse could be taken, okay, Gaur Lila is a bridge. The more you go there, the more you end in the other side. You emerge in Krishna Lila, but we'll see that also as our Guru Maharaj will continue the idea. And the more you immerse yourself in Krishna Lila, the more you emerge in Gaur Lila. You can also immerse yourself in Krishna Lila. It's not that I only immerse in Gaur Lila and I appear in Krishna Lila and there's nothing to immerse in Vrindavan. There's lots of depth there. When you reach the depth, you find yourself on the other side. So, in one sense, yeah, that's true. The more we enter, Gaur Lila is the entrance to Krishna Lila. This is the best way of conceiving what's going on in the Braj, because for the uninformed eye, Vrindavan may be just a place of fun and enjoyment, and they are eating, dancing, singing, and that's a fact. But we may not be aware of the underlying disposition of its members that will become apparent when we go to Gaur Lila or when Krishna gets out of Vrindavan, goes out of Vrindavan. He never goes out, but in the dynamics of the Lila, sometimes he becomes unmanifest. And we find how, I don't know, the Gopas experience and exhibit at a level of love and separation and surrender and prayers and different moods of humility and all the things that if you just see them playing wrestling or dancing, you may not be able to catch their disposition. As today was said, for facilitating the union of Radha Krishna every single midday, both Gopas and Gopis are ready to give their life heirs millions of times. I mean, that's not necessary, but that's their disposition. If I need to die and get born again and die again trillions of times for one single union from one single moment, I'm ready to pay that price. So, but again, sometimes we need Gaur Lila for that, the entrance point. We will find the Rupa Manjari, Lavanga Manjari as Rupa Sanatan, give an example as sadhakas, and we will be able to enter Krishna Lila through Gaur Lila. But, as I mentioned also, Krishna Lila could be seen as a bridge to Gaur Lila. So that's what I wanted to share some also not so much known verses that I've read these days. I didn't know them, but they came on my way. So coming from one book from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So this is not this is something that every Vaishnava will accept. It's not that, that was written by more contemporary. They are not the eternal associates of Mahaprabhu. Sometimes that argument is there with Nityanavadvipa, even, for example, but that's another chapter already covered today in the morning. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, we know he's a direct associate of Mahaprabhu, one of the main ones, the first conversion of Sri Chaitanya Dev when he arrived to Puri. And he composed eventually, of course, after his conversion, the Sarvabhauma Sataka. So Sarvabhauma Sataka means 100. So the 100s of Sarvabhauma, algo así, which means algo así, this is Spanish. Sarvabhauma Sataka means 100 verses in glorifications of Sri Chaitanya. So there are two verses that I would like to share with you today in this connection. Verses 18 first, which says like this: Yatha Radha Padamboje Bhakti Syat Prema Lakshana Tataiva Krishna Chaitanya Bhartate Madhurarati. So now comes the same idea from the other angle, as I mentioned. The amount of devotion one develops for the lotus feet of Sri Radha, that amount one increases in his devotion for the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So we have the complementary aspect. The more we go deep into the service of Sri Radha, the more we emerge as servants of Sri Gaur. Because again, this wants to make a deep connection between Gaur and Radha. Because if you take Radha out of the equation, there is no Gaur Lila. I mean, strictly speaking, what we are celebrating today has all to do with Sri Radha. Because what made Krishna appear on earth was the main reason for his appearance here, to taste a particular thing connected to her. So without her, there's no Gaur Purnima, basically, strictly speaking. So it's important that we do not go to the extreme that in the name of Braja Bhakti, we dismiss Gaur Lila altogether in eternity. That's not an idea. That's a similar thing that when one thinks the only possible relationship of a Gaudiya Vaishnava in eternity with Krishna is Manjari Bhav. That's the only thing available in the Sampradaya. That's the type of what sometimes I will call racism. Racism. No, racism. Racism. To be racist in the context of rasa. That's an answer. We can be racism, but here's the racism. Not with C, but with S the two times. In the name of rasa, I'm being racist. No. Only Madhurya Rasa, that's the only thing. Only Braja Lila. No, Gaur Lila is just a bridge. We can burn after crossing it. That's varieties of racism. So we have to be careful about that, because again, over and over again, we find in different sections of scripture that Gaur Lila could be conceived again as both Lilas are eternal, but also sometimes one could conceive one as the fountainhead of the other. Sometimes we can speak in terms of Gaur Lila is born in the height of Krishna Lila, as our Guru Maharaj will depict in the height. Rasa Lila, Krishna, Gopis, Krishna witnessing the degree of the Gopis' love, especially Sri Radha wanted to taste that. Napari, Ham Nirabadya Sanjana, and so on. But also we can conceive the opposite. Krishna Lila comes from Gaur Lila. Again, the two are eternal. So there's no beginning. But Chaitanya Charitamrita shares this idea also. If you can interpret the verse in this direction, Srila Srila Maharaj did so. It says, Krishna Lila Mrita Sar Tara Satta Sattadar Jaha Dihe Yat Baha Hoite Sri Chaitanya Lila Hoy Sarobharakshoy Manohamsa Charatitahati. So it says, Krishna Lila Amrita Sar. Krishna Das Kaviraj is saying, Krishna Lila is Amrita Sar, which means the essence of, how do you say in English? Deathlessness. Okay. So, and of course, Amrita means nectar as well, sweetness. So, Krishna Lila Amrita Sar is the ultimate cream of deathlessness, if you will. That's Krishna Lila. Dasa Dihe Jaha Baha Hoite. And that's flowing into a different direction, different streams here and there, innumerable lilas, innumerable pastimes, flow in different directions. But say Chaitanya Lila Hai, Sarovar Akshai, Manohamsa Charati Tahat. But Chaitanya Lila or Gaur Lila is Sarovar. Sarovar means lake, from which all these streams of lilas are coming, are like flowing. So interestingly, this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita is depicting Gaur Lila's if you will, fountain, source, lake, and Krishna Lila's currents coming from that lake. And Krishna thus and saying, Sri Chaitanya Lila Hai Sarvaraksha Mano Hamsa Charati Tahate. May my mind become a swan and dwell forever in that Gaur lake, if you will. Gaur Lila lake. Like. So forever, again, forever means there is eternality to Gaur Lila. So interestingly, again, that's a way of putting it. Once someone asks, let's say, Mars, what's coming first, Gaur Lila and Krishna Lila? Of course, he said, the one you like the most. The two are eternal. But if in your particular disposition, you like to think of one as being the byproduct of the other in a proper way, not in a racist way, there's place for that. Because again, someone may have more affinity towards Gaur Lila, someone may have affinity towards Krishna Lila, someone may have equal affinity towards both Lilas. In the same way you have, I don't know, in connection, for example, to the service of Radharani, you have Radha Snehadika, you have Tatashta, Swapaksha, Vipaksha, Suhrit Paksha, the ones who are friendly with her, opposed to her, neutral with her, and totally partial with her. And it's okay, there's place for all the grace and nuances there. But again, my point here is there is place for Gaur Lila as being considered, quote unquote, as the source of Krishna Lila, or at least as a goal in itself. So let me share the second verse from Sarvabhauma, the Sarvabhauma Sataka, which is verse 17, which he further clarifies this point. He says, Chaitanya charavnam mujhe shayasti pritirachita brindatavi shayastasya bhakti shatchata janmani. He says, one who develops firm love for the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya may have rendered service for 100 lifetimes unto Sri Radha and Krishna, who are the Lord Mistress of Vrindavan. So it's another way of putting the same point. Someone who really has Gaur Bhakti, for sure must have had Krishna Bhakti for 100 lifetimes in order to reach such a converging point, such a point of refinement in her seva took him to this particular expression of Radha and Krishna, if you will, in the form of Mahaprabhu, who of course we know is, in one sense, it's Radha and Krishna, in the sense that it's Krishna in the mode of Radha, Bhava Duty Subhalikam, but Naomi Krishna Swarupam. He's Krishna. He's not Radha Krishna in every sense of the term. We have Radha and Gaur Lila as Gadadhar Pandit, but that's another chapter. But how Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mode of Radha, that's a very consuming topic of conversation for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his famous Guru Parampara song, when he's like mentioning all the members of our Parampara, at one point he says, Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya Rupa Noga Jane Rajivan. So he says, Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, he is Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. He is none other than Radha and Krishna. In a particular way, again, it's Krishna in the mode of Radha. And Rupa Noga Jane Rajivan. Such a concept is the life and soul of the Rupa Noga Vaishnavas. In other words, those who are serving and following the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami, to speak about that, that's their life and soul, basically. To speak how Krishna became Gaur, became, quote unquote, again, bless. You say bless, right? Okay, that's a good. I mean, I cannot bless anyone, but may blessings be with all of you. So again, we can see there is the possibility of this portal, of this window of opportunity where Gaur exists eternally. It's a goal into itself, Gaur Lila. And as we know, some words about how this opportunity comes to us. Again, Gaur Lila is eternal, but also it kind of unfolds on earth according to mundane chronology, if you will, as a form of further empathy in our particular situation, time frame, and so on. So Gaur Lila sometimes is called Parishishta Lila, Parishishta Lila, which means Parishishta means like appendix, like in a book, epilogue. appendix, the epilogue, which means the afterthought about you've almost finished the whole thing. No? That you were telling the story, but after that you will tell him the story is finished, but actually it's not finished. After that, the main character, his life continued in this way, and he traveled there, and finally he did this and that, and blah blah blah. So Gaur Lila is Parishishta Lila. It's a natural, necessary epilogue continuation to the Krishna Lila. Whereas we know, put in extreme terms, our Guru Maharaj will say, to make up for the failure of Krishna Lila. It's a way of putting it. Of course, we don't want to speak in Krishna Lila as a failure, but it's a nice way of presenting that. I mean, Krishna Lila is not complete without considering all its possible implications. And if you start to, and that's what the Goswamis did, they start to think about which are the implications of Krishna, which are the implications of Krishna being Krishna and Radha being Radha, and both of them loving each other as they do, which are all the possible ramifications of, I mean, you become obsessed with that if you enter into that direction, because there's no end to how much you can elaborate on that. So they did like that. They commented on the Bhagavad and other books with such feeling, and they concluded that, yeah, as Guru Maharaj would say, there must be Mahaprabhu. They presented Radha Krishna Lila in such a way, then naturally you will conclude, you will start to look for where is Sri Chaitanya. And again, they read verses like, I don't know, you go to the Bhagavad Gita, the Atmam Prapadante Jantam Stataiva Bhajamyam. Krishna says, in a way, as you approach me, I approach you, basically. I reciprocate accordingly. So you read that verse and you may say, Mahaprabhu is not there. For someone like the Goswamis, they say, oh, Mahaprabhu is here, the Bhagavad Gita. Because if you play out the implications of that verse, and what does it mean to apply that to Krishna himself in relation to someone like Sri Radha, the result of that equation is what? Gaur Lila. Because Krishna says, as you approach me, I reciprocate. As we know, going back to the Bhagavad and what happened there, Krishna disappeared for Rasa Lila. Gopis start to exhibit the high degree of their separation. Sri Radha in particular, and Krishna was witnessing all that, camouflaging himself behind a tamal tree. He is Tamal Krishna behind a tamal tree. And he was like, I mean, he thought, I disappeared from here with one purpose in mind, but now I'm discovering that there was some other purpose that I was not aware of. I want to sing the glories of the gopis to the world. I want to increase their love in separation, but now I'm having darshan of the degree of their love, that it's reaching a peak, especially in the case of Radha, that it's unknown to me, and I want to taste that somehow or other. So he comes back, as you know, and he quotes this famous verse, Napareham nirabadya sanjayam sasad kritam vibhudayu sapiva yamavajan durjaragiha srinkala sambrishyatad pratyatu sadhana. This will be the official moment, if you will, if you want to connect Gaur Lila making its explosion in the Bhagavad, and that's the moment. And Krishna is saying to the gopis, I cannot repay your love for me. I am indebted. Even in a day of Brahma, I cannot pay back. That's, I mean, you have cut all shackles from domestic life and all worldly attachment for my sake only, exclusively. So the only thing I can do is just, and there the Goswami start to interpret this verse. Krishna is saying, I will become a sadhu and try to make up for my debt with you somehow or other. Once in a day of Brahma, will come as a sadhu, Mahaprabhu, and sing your glories. So I cannot, Mahaprabhu, Krishna here is saying, not only I cannot repay your debt, basically he's saying, I cannot even start to conceive how much the debt is. Because for you to pay a debt, first you have to know how much is there you have to pay. I have a debt. How much, you will ask? And you say, I don't know. Oh, that's a debt. It's so much that I cannot start to conceive how much I have to pay. So that's what's happening to Krishna here. He's accepting. He's not flattering the gopis. Oh, so much my debt that I cannot. He's really meaning that. He's really saying that. I don't know where the debt begins, where the debt ends. I mean, the degree of your love is so overwhelming to me. Krishna generally is known as Ajita in scripture, which means how do you say Ajita? Unconquerable? Unconquerable. Jay Jatasa Priya Priyasi Traistilokini. But Ajita becomes Jita. We like more that name for Krishna, the conquered one. The unconquerable, conquered. Something like that. That's the beauty of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. In front of the gopis, Krishna is publicly accepting defeat, eternal defeat. I will try to pay, I will try to make up for the debt, but I won't be able to pay it back. Let your own love be your reward. And I will try to do something about that. I cannot just cross my arms and, okay, so nice the love you have for me. I have to do something. But probably as much as I try to pay back, the debt will increase, because that's the nature of the gopis' love. Krishna offers something to them, and they immediately put that in service to him. And they have no other conception in them. Whatever comes to them, is like immediately potential paraphernalia to please their beloved. So that's a constant dynamics there. Bhagavan is defeated by the love of the gopis and Sri Radha in particular. And that's what the zenith of, for example, our daily meditation in the Diksha mantras with well, in Brahm Gayatri, that's implied. In Kam Gayatri, that's much more overt. With at the end, we say, Tanno Tannanga Prachodaya. Tanno Nanga Prachodaya. We say, may that Ananga constantly inspire us. So what's Ananga? Yeah, that's an name generally ascribed to Cupid on one level. But this verse we are singing, Kama Gayatri, it's not to Cupid, the one from this world, but Krishna's Cupid. Kamadev, Pushpavanai, the one who carries flower arrows. So Ananga is the name of Krishna's Cupid. So the one who without limbs. Ananga. Anga means limbs. Ananga means without limbs. So what does it mean here? It doesn't mean the Cupid of this world who was burned by Shiva. It means Krishna, Cupid, conquered by the love of Sri Radha, because this verse is speaking about the flower arrow battle. That means the romantic interaction between Radha and Krishna. And at the end, who is the winner? There, again, Ajita, Jita. Sri Radha is called Jayastri, which means the goddess of victory. And Krishna will be called Ananga, the one without limbs, which means he becomes so overwhelmed by the degree of prem coming from Sri Radha that he loses all bodily consciousness and faints. And he becomes Ananga, without awareness of his limbs. He's totally forgotten of his. It is mentioned in the scriptures. And Radha and the Manjari have to come and try to revive Krishna somehow or other. He's Ananga. So we will pray, may that Ananga constantly inspire us. Thrown on the floor, totally fainted, losing consciousness of himself by the impact of Sri Radha's prayer. So all this had to do with Mahaprabhu here, because this is a consequence of that. Mahaprabhu is a result of Krishna's wanting to taste Radha Bhav. So let me also share one verse from the Bhagavad, which is also not so well known, but at least personally it's one of my favorite ones. And I remember sharing this with my Guru Maharaj and asking him, what do you think about this verse in connection to Gaur Lila? Taking the ultimate implication again of the verse. I will read the verse and you may say, it's not speaking about Mahaprabhu, but try to enter into the playing out of the implications of the verse in the line of Goswami. I will say, oh, something is going on here. So in the verse, Krishna is saying, it's from the 11th canto, Uddhava Gita. Krishna is saying, Nirapeksham munim shantam nirbairam samadarshanam anubrajamyaham nityam pujyayetyangri renuvihi. So Krishna is glorifying his devotees there. He's saying, Nirapeksham munim shantam. My devotees have no desire. They are totally wise. They are totally peaceful. Nirbairam samadarshanam. They have no enemies and they see everyone equally. So that's a general depiction of a nice devotee, a good devotee. But then he says, Anubrajami aham nityam pujayetyam grirenavi. Anubrajami aham nityam. I perpetually follow in the footsteps of my devotees. Anubrajami. Braja means to go. Aham nityam. Nityam means always. Pujayati angri renubihi. Angri renubihi means the feet, the dust, their dust feet. Dust feet? The feet of their dust. And I constantly expect for the opportunity of entering in contact with the feet of their dust so I may purify myself. Krishna is saying that in connection to his devotees. So again, if you take this verse and play out itself to the ultimate consequence, that's showcasing Mahaprabhu's appearance, because Krishna is speaking about his topmost devotee, Sri Radha, who are free for all personal desire and so on. There are no enemies, if you will. Everything is seen as Udipana in connection to Krishna. And he aspires to perpetually follow into her footsteps and be bathed into the her dust, their foot dust, basically. So that's why he tries to appear as Sri Chaitanya Dev, which is again a very particular experiment, if you will. Gaur Lila is like Krishna in the laboratory, trying to see how it feels, trying to enter into a particular role, and how does it feel to be Radha, and trying and tasting that and trying that more and more until he attaining his. It's Krishna wanted to attain his PhD, basically. Gaur Lila is the PhD of Sri Krishna, basically, of PhD of Krishna Lila. Again, it's there for making up for that. And of course, and our Guru Maharaj will say in his Sikshastakam, at the end of Gaur Lila, according to Krishna Das Kaviraj, he says that the last verse of Sikshastakam was spoken by Shri Radha. So, Krishna as Mahaprabhu was successful in tasting Radha fully. But at the same time, what we can say is Radha Sudam Padamboja Sudamburasi, the ocean of service, the ocean of Prema Sri Mati Radharani is unlimited. So the point is, it's not that Krishna, tasted that and it's okay, I tasted that, I finished. There's no end to that. And that's the main reason why we can say Gaur Lila is eternally going on. Because that experiment, that project of Krishna tasting Radha has no end. I mean, it has no end. Krishna's the king of relishers, and Sri Radha is the queen of that which is to be relished by the queen, but the king of relishers. So try to put that two things combined. The king of relishers, Rasik Sekar, Sri Krishna, and trying to plumb the depths of the unending ocean of friend that is Sri Radha. So it's ongoing, ever expanding. There's no end to Gaur Lila. That's the point. I will say that's the main intuitive, common sense reason for us to say Gaur Lila. There has to be Gaur Lila eternally, because it has no end. Krishna is constantly dedicated to that particular project, in that particular laboratory, if you will. Let me share you another verse. I think that will be the last one. Oh my God. I don't think I will be able to share whatever I want to share with you. Some verses from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, very nice, from Sanatana Goswami, which also could be seen as, here we have a portal. Sanatana Goswami is very good in doing this. So in the second part, 5th chapter, reaching the end of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, here we have a conversation between Narad Muni and Gopakumar. So Narad is saying to Gopakumar, if you ever meet Sri Radhika, then you will see Prem in person. And if ever she speaks about Prem, only then can you hear the truth about it, if you are able to understand it. Or should there ever be a full incarnation of Sri Krishna Chandra to distribute pure Krishna Prem, or if Srimati Radhika appears and attains the realization of that Prem, you might be able to understand it.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. He got it. Great.
Wow. And that's in 11?
Sorry?
11?
No, this is Brihad Bhagavatamrita from Sanatana Goswami.
Oh, right.
Second canto, 5th chapter, verses 233 to 234, just in case. And some words that Sanatana Goswami adds as a commentary to this, he says, if Krishna were to appear and distribute Prem directed to him, which is similar to what was described, or similar to Radha's Prem, or even better, if Radha were to appear and attain a realization of that prem, then you will understand. And he called that descent as Mahavatar, great descent. So of course, I shared this also with my Guru Master. What do you think about this? Yeah, Gaur Leela is there, Sanatana Goswami is. No? So yeah, Radha is appearing. Of course, Mahaprabhu is appearing in the form of the mood in Krishna in the form of Mahaprabhu. So of course, this is Gaur. Mahaprabhu, we will call him the empathic God. Krishna wanted to be empathic with Radha's experience and incorporate that in him. So as Gaur, Krishna wants to have the full, the full, it's never enough, but as much as he can, the full experience of Radha Baba. Remember once, I think Archana Siddhi was asking about that in Krishna Lila, sometimes Radha and Krishna exchange roles. That's called Viparita Vilas. Sri Krishna feels himself to be Radha, Sri Radha first feels herself to be Krishna during loving battle. But for a moment, it's not that during all day. So at that moment, we could say, well, Krishna is in Radha's shoes, and vice versa. But that's only for a moment, and in a particular exchange and a particular lila. That's not the full range of all that Radha is about. So Gaur Lila is necessary for that. Necessary for that. This and again, this experiment has no end. So that's for me the main reason for the eternal existence of Gaur Lila. We can make so many arguments why Gaur Lila is eternal, but I think that's the most intuitive one. Radha Baba is an eternal ocean, and Krishna is eternally absorbing, finding newer depths and depths and depths. And of course, on the other side, today we are celebrating the descent of such a Leela, which is eternally existent in the upper cut, where Mahaprabhu also is tasting Radha Baba there. It's not just that he comes tasting Radha Baba here and there in the upper cut. Now that's not there, that's there. But it's coming here. And as we know, the Prakat Leelas always have some added features, as our Guru Maharaj will say, like a movie on location. So Mahaprabhu, in this case, similar to Krishna Leela, Krishna is being born. He's not being born in the upper cut. Mahaprabhu is being born here. We are celebrating that today. And also, interestingly, in the context of Mahaprabhu's Prakat Lila on earth, even what we may call Naimitika Lila, which is the occasional pastimes, all of them are also connected with this main purpose for his descent. As we know, Krishna came as Mahaprabhu to taste Radha Baba, and whatever came will come after that. I mean, his establishing of Juga Dharma, his establishing of the Raga Marg, all that will be a byproduct of his the Antakarana, the main purpose for his descent. For example, the Juga Dharma has more to do with the Vishnu in Mahaprabhu, not so much with the Braja Krishna, which is the one who is really coming for tasting something else. So similarly, for example, in Krishna Lila, we have when Krishna is killing demons, who is killing demons? Krishna is killing demons? But how is that happening? How is that happening? The Vishnu in him, let's say. The Vishnu portion in the Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, the Vishnu aspect is the one dealing with the adharmic sex. Krishna is not entering in touch with that reality. He's absorbed in his Swarup Shakti. He never goes out of the orbit of Swarup Shakti. So similarly, interestingly, when Mahaprabhu is taking sannyas, sometimes the parallel is being there. Krishna is going out of Braj, killing Kamsa and so many demons. Krishna is going out of Nadia, taking sannyas, and not killing anyone, literally, but killing demoniac mentality, even though at one moment he almost forgets about that and beheads Jagai Madai, invoking this chakra, but there was some reminder on time and the chakra disappeared. But it is he's killing the demonic mentality, and one may say, well, that's a Vishnu side in him, the Narayan in Gaur Narayan. But also the sannyas of Mahaprabhu, which is seen as a nine mythical lila, something relative, occasional, is not happening in Nitya Navadvip. Even, I mean, the descent of Krishna's Mahaprabhu is so much embedded in its main purpose, and even the so-called nine mythical lilas are connected with the main purpose. For example, the sannyas of Mahaprabhu, sometimes we say, that's a preaching strategy only. I mean, that's a preaching strategy, not only. That's a preaching. Sannyas ashram in itself is a preaching strategy, if you will. So let's see how long does it last. Every preaching strategy has a shelf life. So let's see. But the point is, we can say, okay, Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas even from a Advaita Vedanta background, from Kesha Bharati, at least apparently, because that was even more strategic for the time. And that's all. That sannyas is something totally relative in Mahaprabhu. It's not existing in Nitya Navadvip, so it has nothing to do with the main purpose of his descent, but with his secondary purpose, which is to disseminate Yuga Dharma, period. No. Everything that happens in Gaur Lila is connected with the main reason. So in this sense, it is also, there's some explanation given by the acharyas regarding like the esoteric side to Mahaprabhu's sannyas. So that has to do with, we have to go to Krishna Lila for that also. There's some connection there. But it is said that once, I will make it brief because I should finish in 3 minutes and I don't think I will do it. But I have some extra minutes. So, oh my gosh. So,
so good. We're not stopping.
Yeah. So there's one Lila where Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, and eventually they plan some meeting, as is usual every day. We will meet in that particular Nikunj at that time, in that moment. All the information has been passed, the messengers are there, everything is fixed, WhatsApp messages, everything in place. We know where to meet each other. So Krishna goes to the Nikunja, waiting for Sri Radha, but she's not appearing. Sometimes, generally, the opposite case is what happens, and Krishna becomes distracted on the way from Chandravali. And of course, Chandravali has one of the main services there, which is to invoke the man of Srimati Radharani, the jealous anger. So that's a very crucial figure. But in this case, Krishna was on time. He was in the Kunj. Radha was not coming because she was about to go, and some relatives came to Java, to her house. So Jatila said, "Oh, you have to cook." This uncle came and this came. Or she was like, "Oh my God, no? how to free myself from all these obstacles that she's facing actually on a daily basis in so many directions." I want to speak about Jatila, that's enough, but we have to add on top of that Jatila, Kutila, family members, the whole of Braj, that she can be with Krishna in front of them. And all of that is nourishing, actually, Udipana. So the point is, they were not able to meet. Krishna was waiting, and Krishna entered in man in this case. You realize Sri Radha is the one who enters in man, in this anger. But Krishna also sometimes has his moments in this connection. So he was, he has a special connection with Radha. He always derives this man from her. And from Radha's family, he has a lot with this, I will say, type of Vira Rasa. Because in the friendship side, Radha's older brother, Sridham, that's the main wrestler with Krishna on a daily basis. So he offers Krishna pleasure by wrestling in Sakya, and then we go to Sridham's younger sister, Radha. She offers pleasure to Krishna by wrestling, but in the context of Man, in Madhurya Bhav. But now it's the opposite. Krishna is the one in Man. So he started to say, I'm frustrated. All these issues with ladies. At the end of the day, it's a headache, and you get attached, and I come, and they're not coming. I'm frustrated. So he left the conch. He broke all. He had decorated everything, preparing everything for Radha to come. She didn't come. He broke all the decoration, and he dresses in saffron also. He said, "I will become Ramacharya." That's all. That's the end of it. So because he wears what? Pitambar. That's the name of Krishna also, Pitambar. So Pitambar means golden cloth. And golden, why? Because that's Radha's luster. Now Radha uses clothes that resembles Krishna's luster. Everything in her is blue, blackish, and in him we have the golden thing. So they are one with each other internally, but also externally. That's not enough to have the other one full internally. Also externally, everything resembles them. So Sri Radha is in the Kund, and she sends some friends to go and say to Krishna that I'm delayed, I have this out, but they went, they found the whole Nikunja destroyed, and eventually they know what happened, and Krishna didn't want to do anything with Radha, didn't want to see anything golden, everything that was golden in the house, he started to paint it different colors. That happens to Radha. When Radha is in man with Krishna, happens the same. Everything that is black, she puts sandal paste and takes the kajal of his eyes, she changes the clothes. Whatever is black, she paints with different colors. So, so at this point, she said, what to do, how to obtain, again, how to break Krishna's man. That's the idea, how to break the man. So speaking with her Sakis, some idea comes, and they start to speak into her ear. Remember this one. Remember how Krishna on many occasions came to you to break your man, dressing himself as a renunciant, like hiding himself and entering to the cottage. And so maybe it's your turn to break his man with the same method. So Sri Radha agrees, and she's dressed with saffron. And her hair is put like a top knot here, and some kamandalu comes, some danda, and she becomes like a sannyasi.
What?
Yeah. So she goes to Nandishwar, the house of Nanda Maharaj. So Krishna's locked in his room. He doesn't want to see anyone. He's totally and everyone on the way say, who is this sannyasi? So enchanting. So she arrives finally to Nandishwar, and Jashoda received her and said, oh, Maharaj, I'm so blessed to have you at home. Please, what do you want? I'm here, I'm traveling, I'm doing pilgrimage, and I mean, and just I was thinking, oh, she can. Oh, my Krishna is so upset these days. Maybe this sadhu can bless him and offer something. And I don't know. I want here to ask something. So just was okay, but I have my son, but I'm only a sannyasi, so I can only relate to people of my same species. So just to say, oh, but my Kaneya is brahmachari, so no problem. I mean, Durvasa Muni say Krishna is brahmachari, and that's a fact, in the real sense of the term. So Jashoda goes to Krishna and say, one sadhu came, very beautiful sadhu. He wants to ask something from you. I don't want to see anyone. Krishna said, no, come. He's very, maybe if you don't go, he may get enraged, may curse us. Who knows? All these sadhus are so weird. Durvasa and all that. You have to feed them nicely. So, okay, Krishna goes. And when she sees the sadhu, she says, oh, such a beautiful sadhu. So, who are you? And what do you want? I'm asking for some charity. And that was the main idea. I'm begging for something. So what do you want? I'm begging your man, says the sannyas. No, I'm begging give me your man, give me your anger, you're jealous. So at that moment, Krishna realized, oh, that's why I felt so much attracted to this sadhu. So in this way, so the point is that at that point, Krishna said, oh, ma, this sannyas is so nice and it's so late now. So he cannot go now home. So he can stay with us at home, but he can stay with me in the room. So I'm brahmachari, he's sannyasi, I'm the most ideal person to serve him. So in this way, the union of Radha and Krishna makes again. So again, now Mahaprabhu is Krishna. I'm trying to I didn't reach the full circle yet. So, so Mahaprabhu, going back to our idea, the internal reason for Mahaprabhu's sannyas is Krishna reciprocating to her as now he's the Tyagi again. He's coming back again. And sometimes they say that the saffron has to do with the kumkum. Sri Radha has kumkum on her heart, on this part, on the chest. And she's in separation of Krishna. She's crying so much that all her tears combined with kumkum create the color saffron. So Mahaprabhu say, okay, I will dress in that color because I will be crying constantly in the mood of separation, as Radha does in separation from me. I will be doing the same. So the proper color to represent that mood will be this one. So that's the idea. No? And our role in that connection, sometimes it has been said, our japa, when we are chanting, for example, and counting Sankhya Nam, is trying like it is the example is given as a person, a very miser, you say, person who is like with his wealth, it's like counting. Oh, I have $10, $100, $1,000. In the same way, we are passing our beats, trying to help Krishna to make up for his debt, like counting. Okay, I will chant one more. I won't chant. No, with this conception, our chant of Srinam is basically conceived with the idea of it's my service to Krishna in the form of Gaur. Krishna is so indebted to Sri Radha. So now I'm chanting, trying to Mahaprabhu help him to pay the debt. Mahaprabhu is coming in the mood of the gopis, as we know, in the mood of Sri Radha. And again, he's engaging in kirtan as a sannyas with Krishna Chaitanya with the idea, with the hope of experiencing what they are experiencing, she's experiencing. And through this, as he mentioned again, the Bhagavatam, Napade, I will come once in a day of Brahma at least to try to pay back something. I won't be able to pay, I'm not able to conceive the size of the debt, but I will try to do something about it. So he's trying to sing, to pay something back. So again, he's accepting sannyas for that, not only for dissemination, but for entering into a particular mode. Eventually that will take him to the Gambhira for the last 12 years in Puri. So that has to do a lot with his main purpose. In Puri, which is called also Vipralamba Kshetra, which is the field for culturing separation. So Krishna came to taste the bhajan of Sri Radha, and of course his movement has to do with the idea of distributing that type of love. And this is the way of trying to make up for the debt that Mahaprabhu has acquired. Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself saying the bhajan, I will come and try to make devotees for you. Whether in Manjari Bhav, Priyanarma Sakya, they are devotees of Radha somehow or other. So all of us are a result of Krishna's attempt to pay his debt, if you will, somehow or other. So now we are trying to contribute with Mahaprabhu's cause. In our dissemination of the message, also our campaign is ideally internally conducted with this idea as an attempt of service to Sri Gauranga, trying to make new bhaktas for Sri Radha, and this way helping Krishna to diminish his big debt that he's taking. It's part of the Leela. The debt will keep increasing, no problem. But as much as that debt increases for us, the karmic debt for us will diminish more and more. The best way to diminish our karmic debt is to increase our akarmic debt, if you will. So again, just to finish, we're receiving the opportunity to render such confidential service to Mahaprabhu, who is in a great necessity again. Mahaprabhu is Krishna in this moment of most vulnerable moment, most fragile moment, most volcanic moment, most indebted moment, most. So to say that the most valuable service will be according to necessity. According to the degree of necessity, that particular service will be especially valuable. And of course, that type of service will create in itself the highest remuneration, which will be in the form of further service capacity. For us, that's the remuneration. We don't want something separate from that. Once Srila Maharaj said, Prem means receiving an unlimited energy for rendering seva. That's Prem. He expressed that in terms of further capacity to please the object of our love. So we have this idea, for example, as our Guru Maharaj says, the Priyanarma Sakas are the friends of Krishna even in his romantic life, when Krishna needs the most such friendship. Similarly, the Manjaris will be serving Radha in those moments of greater necessity for her. Or like what Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I want to die in Kurukshetra, so I can serve Sri Radha when she meets Krishna in Kurukshetra and is not able to fully meet with him. So in the same way, following this idea of service in the most needy moment, going back to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu is Krishna in his most, again, vulnerable, fragile, volcanic, indebted moment. So service to him is the highest thing, the most delicate, the most profound, the most subtle. So it represents for us the most valuable and undeserving but necessary opportunity that we are having. So it's very important, this idea of conceiving Gaur Lila again as a goal in itself, and as a goal in a very particular mood and necessity that it's really a very undeserved grace, amazing grace, as you say here. So serving Krishna in his most need moment. And what to speak, that's another chapter, but we have in Gaur Lila not only Krishna's Gaur in that vulnerable moment, but we have also Radha's Gadadhar emptying herself, giving herself fully to Gaur. That's another form of fragility and vulnerability that needs a particular type of seva. That's for another chapter. Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Gaur Purnima ki jai, Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Pramanandi, Vancha Kalpataru Vishta Kripa Sindhu Te Vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.